This is the heart and the soul of 5,000 years of history, the Egyptian Museum in the middle of Cairo. Every day, from all over the world, the tourists come to within touching distance of the pharaohs. There are tens of thousands of pieces here, but one is missing. The one piece which is the key to all others, the Rosetta Stone. Egypt has only this replica. The fight is on to get the real one back and to put right a legacy of imperialism.
It's not the beauty, it is the identity. This is a very important archaeological piece that made the introduction to the Egyptian archaeology, and therefore I call it the icon of our Egyptian identity. And therefore a piece like this or an object like this should not be outside Egypt. It should be inside Egypt.
Inscribed 200 years before the birth of Christ, the Rosetta Stone is priceless because it provides the key to deciphering long-forgotten hieroglyphics, the written word of ancient Egypt. There's always been a fight over the Rosetta Stone. It started here, 300 kilometres north of Cairo. This is the town of Rosetta, known now by its Arabic name, Rashid. It was once the major port of Egypt. It's here that the Nile joins the Mediterranean. And it was here, 200 years ago, that Napoleon's soldiers discovered and unearthed the Rosetta Stone. They held onto it for 2 years and studied it. The British then took control of this area, and with it, possession of the precious stone. The British promptly shipped it out of Egypt to London, to the British Museum, where it remains to this day.
كان بيعمل بعض التجديدات والإضافات على القلعة.
Tour guide Ayman Hamdan knows all about the Rosetta Stone and the 16th century fort where it was found. Egypt's Ottoman rulers used any old bits of rock and stone they could get their hands on to build this fort. They had no idea their building materials included a priceless relic. It took the French to discover that.
وبعدين رمموا القلعة، وهم بيرمموا القلعة بالطوب الأحمر اللي هو بيدعم الأبراج والمزارع ديت، اكتشفوا حجر رشيد في البرج اللي احنا موجودين فيه، في مكان موجود دوت بالظبط.
These days, few people make the trek to the stone's original home. In the British Museum in London, it's a different story. The real Rosetta Stone is a real crowd puller, a big attraction in a museum full of other people's treasures. It's the mission of Egypt's leading archaeologist to get the stone back.
When I came to be the head of antiquities, one of my strategies was returning stolen artifacts and the unique artifacts. I'm not saying this now to get publicity or to gain anything for Egypt. I'm doing this because this is the right thing.
Zahi Hawass is the overlord of Egypt's underground. He's in charge of everything that doesn't move, from the giant stone sculptures of the pharaohs to the most delicate of artefacts. Zahi Hawass wants to get back the booty of imperialism, and number one is the Rosetta Stone.
I'm just like a guardian to this monument for everyone, it's not only for Egypt. And I think my duty is to ask for the return of this unique piece, that its place should be Egypt, not England.
Not that the stone is much to look at, barely a metre high, it's a squat piece of basalt. Its attraction is totally one of the mind.
Without the Rosetta Stone, the stones will be stones that will never talk. You will never read the inscriptions. You will never see the scenes in front of you live. That stone made everything in ancient Egypt live.
So it's actually unlocked thousands of years.
Yes.
There are 3 languages chiseled into the Rosetta Stone. On the top are the hieroglyphics. In the middle, a translation in the common Egyptian language of the day called Demotic. At the bottom is a Greek translation. A brilliant young Frenchman called Jean-François Champollion deciphered the code using another ancient language called Coptic.
When he was only 16, he actually managed to tie in the idea that Coptic, the sort of Christian form of Egyptian, was linked to the hieroglyphics. He used this in conjunction with the Greek that he knew and the Demotic on the Rosetta Stone to actually crack the code for the ancient Egyptian script.
It's said that after Champollion made his breakthrough, he cried out, "I've done it!" then promptly fainted and remained passed out for 5 full days. Emerging from the stone were the stories of the pharaohs, Ramses, Tutankhamun, Queen Nefertiti, how they lived, their fears, their desires. Jean-François Champollion also managed to coax from the stone the sound of hieroglyphics. The sound of the ancient script can still be heard today. It's the language used by Coptic Christians in church.
On a scale from 1 to 10, it's probably an 11, because it is really quite extraordinary that someone could, from a jumble of symbols, manage to come up with a language and a grammar which was published as well. So not just the words, but he sort of broke through the idea that these signs were merely symbols. He understood that they stood for sounds and then also for words themselves.
You can see beside this, we have the statue of Champollion. It's very important for Champollion in Egypt to look at original piece, not to have to look at a copy. You cannot have a copy of that Rosetta Stone in the Cairo Museum.
But how to get it back home? Egypt has been making enormous efforts to retrieve all manner of booty taken by all manner of means. In the last 3 years, it's been pursuing objects, big and small, from all over the world. Today, 2 valuable pieces are returning. An international police operation discovered them in a private collection in Switzerland.
Each of the pieces,
Wahid Edward is a curator at the Egyptian Museum.
each of the items is priceless. I cannot say any price of these pieces.
Big,
Because
small.
each piece, it can really change the Egyptian history.
Smuggling antiquities from Egypt is big business, and when they're found, they end up here, in a room at the back of the Egyptian Museum. Often they're discovered on the websites of big auction houses. Sometimes people have a twang of conscience and return them in the post.
ثبوت ملكية مصر ملكية مصر للقطعة دي بيتم استردادها لمصر. لسه من قريب في كامبرا في استراليا، دي آخر حاجة أحدث حاجة تم استرداد قطع أثرية من هناك ثبت ملكيتها لمصر.
Archaeologist Rehab Galal is one of the backroom workers, using the net to catch a thief.
يعني ده التراث بتاعنا، صعب قوي ان انت تبقى عارف الناس كلها يعني مستعده للتعامل مع الاثار المسروقه. ده مش كويس، لان الاثر المسروق ده تراث، ده تاريخ وحضاره بلد.
The Rosetta Stone was taken because an imperial power could do it. It seems that wresting it back might be somewhat more difficult. 2 years ago, Zahi Hawass raised the issue when he spoke at the British Museum.
I just made a speech, and I said that Rosetta Stone should come back to Egypt. If you cannot give it to us for good, we can ask it for a loan.
And what was their reaction?
The reaction was terrible, not from the museum people, but from the press. The press attacked me badly, as if this is owned by the English. It is not owned by the English, it is owned by the Egyptians. And I did not really request it officially. It was just a speech, a very friendly speech.
But a reaction which revealed the nasty side of Egyptology. A British newspaper branded Zahi Hawass King Tut Tut Tut. He was accused of high-handed behaviour and of victimising anybody who crossed him.
Zahi Hawass, since he took over in his present job, has been to really promote Egyptian identity and Egyptian archaeology and the excitement of Egypt. I think he's been extremely successful in that and extremely influential in terms of his appearances on TV and elsewhere in the media. And if he doesn't fit into the old school operation, he's bound to create waves by being controversial. That seems to be quite reasonable. I don't have a problem with that. I don't see why anybody else should have a problem. He's obviously going to, as it were, throw his weight around. He's obviously going to promote himself, but that's fine. And he's an Egyptian doing it. Maybe we get worried because he's an Egyptian rather than a Brit.
The British Museum is refusing to speak about the Rosetta Stone. Academic Tim Shadler Hall appreciates the stakes are high. Cave in to Egypt's demands, and there's a dangerous precedent to return the icons of other nations.
The British Museum is an immensely powerful institution within the governing political elite. So everybody says, oh, we don't want to give it back. It's Roman imperialism. The Romans did exactly the same. They collected stuff from all over the Roman Empire and stuffed it into Rome in exactly the same way. It's like possessing the gods of other people in a way.
But where would the Rosetta Stone go? The answer is simple, according to tour guide Ayman Hamdan.
إن قيمة الحجر وجوده في مكانه، وطبعا الأثر حجر رشيد بالذات هو عنوان الحضارة المصرية القديمة، فكيف يكون يعني العنوان ده خارج مصر؟ فحتمي اللي هو المفروض يرجع لمصر، ويا ريت يكون موجود في القلعة نفسه كمان.
Back in Cairo, Zahi Hawass is sensitive to charges that the Egyptian Museum is already too full to do justice to the Rosetta Stone.
People say Egypt museums are not great. They don't care about their monuments. Some people say this, but this will not be true after 3 years from now.
But Zahi Hawass has big plans to overhaul Egypt's museums, including building a new mega museum near the pyramids.
I believe that the Rosetta Stone should be exhibited in the Grand Museum, that the whole world can come and witness this great museum, the largest museum in the world, and see Rosetta Stone in a special place that can be for everyone.
Everyone, except for those with an unyielding belief that Britain is best. But it seems it will take an effort of pharaonic proportions to prize the Rosetta Stone from the grip of Greater London.